Anyway, I'm Scottie Thompson, and I serve on the board of the Environmental Media Association that's spearheading this whole program. And Maddie, you can say a little hello yourself.
Hi, I'll introduce myself. I'm Madeline Zima. I'm an actress and an activist, and we have the wonderful opportunity today to speak with two incredible researchers who have a part of a very unique conservation mission based in Mozambique at the Gorongosa National Park, which I almost called Gorgonzola a few times, and I apologize for that. So I was like, Gorongosa. And Scottie, you've been there, right? You've actually been to the park.
Yeah, I have. I had the absolutely incredible once-in-a-lifetime experience of getting to go there about 2 years ago now and see firsthand what is perhaps Africa's greatest conservation story to date. I got to go there and had this opportunity because I knew the founder and now president of the Gorongosa project. His name's Greg Carr, and I met him when I was an undergraduate at Harvard, and he, at the time, had founded the Carr Center for Human Rights at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. He also was involved in the arts, and that's how I got to know him. But after that, he went on to found the Gorongosa Project, which is a unique private-public partnership with between the government of Mozambique and the Carr Foundation, and it has a joint conservation mission aimed at education and sustainable tourism management, and involves sustaining the local community as well as the plants and animals that make up the incredible park that is Gorongosa. And it was so amazing when I was there to see what they've built in the back. I say it's about 15 years. And that was coming out of about 30 years of civil war that had really taken a toll on the community and the animals and plants in the area. But I am far from knowing a lot about it. And we are so lucky to be here today with Dominique Gonçalves, I hope I had that correctly, and Matt Jordan. And I could probably introduce them better, but we'll give you a little brief intro, Madeline. Go ahead.
Well, Dominique is a Mozambican ecologist focused on elephant conservation in Gorongosa National Park. Her interest in biodiversity, protection, and human population increase inspired her to earn her MSc in conservation biology at University of Kent. She currently serves as manager of the Elephant Ecology Project, where she investigates elephant movement and the range expansion in relation to habitat use and human-elephant conflict. She also works with the law enforcement, sustainable development colleagues in hopes to build coexistence between the communities there and the wildlife throughout the buffer zone, which is the area surrounding the park. In addition, she works closely with the park's Girls Club program, which I want to know more about and sounds incredible, promoting education and health to prevent early marriage, which, yeah, I want to know more about it, talk all about that too. There's so many good things happening here. It's like, it's amazing what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so many good things. And Matt, both of whom I was so thrilled to see your faces again, having seen you both when I was there, and then Matt, when you were here I'm not in Los Angeles, but when I saw you in LA right before the world shut down for the launch of Gorongosa Coffee, right, which we'll get into. But Matt received his master's in environmental engineering from the University of Texas, and after spending years in rural Nicaragua and China working on clean water projects, found his way to Gorongosa via the Peace Corps. And he now serves in a dual position, one with the Gorongosa Project in the management of agricultural livelihoods, and the other as CEO of Gorongosa Brands, which is a sister nonprofit social agribusiness whose mission is to reforest Gorongosa Park through sustainable coffee growing, which is just, I got chills just thinking about this structure that you guys have, and it can be ultimately hopefully implemented in other places in the world to promote sustainability in an economically feasible capacity. So now that we have these amazing humans and their stories briefly introduced, it's time to dive into the actual story of Gorongosa, and so excited for you guys to start telling us some stuff. So, you know, right now, obviously, everybody's thinking about fires a lot, and climate change and what the fires are telling us. And I remember when I was there was a lot of slash and burn farming going on, fires farming going on in Mozambique. And it was really weird because at the time I was leaving Mozambique, there was a huge fire happening in California. And so I was watching the news in the Mozambican airport of Malibu on fire, which seemed so surreal to me. But I think a good place to start is with you, Matt, and a discussion, you know, sort of an outline of what the coffee program is and how it's working to prevent or, you know, move away from the slash farming.
Sure, and I just have to say, I think this is the coolest thing I've ever done, virtually, you know, maybe not ever in my life, but definitely virtually the coolest thing I've ever done. And I have to say, Scottie, you have a unique honor of being the only person I've ever met who practiced her lines in Gorongosa. I remember you were like reading for something in Gorongosa. You know, you were like going on safaris, and you're like, I got to get home, so I got to read this because I have an audition or something. And I can honestly say I've never met anybody who did that before. So,
well, I say it was unique as the both of you. So it's you were very helpful with the line potential.
It's very cool, and I hope that hope you were inspired while you're there. So I'll also say that I have watched these videos, these EMA videos. They are crazy informative. I learned so many things from these things. So you know, if you're watching this, you might actually learn something. Because I learned, the last one I watched was about the fertility journey. I learned amazing things from some scientists. My mind was blown. So I will try to say things that I have learned in Gorongosa and that might be interesting to people who are watching this. So the fires is a great place to start. And it's a great place to start because it really is instrumental to part of the agriculture that is practiced. And, you know, it is a type of agriculture that's been around for a long time. And you'll find people who, you know, will basically burn the field in order to sort of ease the, you know, cutting down weeds for replanting. And it does offer a bit of a boost within the soil itself. But it's a short-term boost. And over time, what it does is it really degenerates the nutrients in the soil. And what we do, there's two very interesting things here. One is kind of what we do from an agricultural perspective. I find it to be very interesting. And then the other one, which you'll need a trained ecologist to answer and talk about, which is, it's a good thing we have one of those on the call. I'm not one of those, but we have one. And that's what the park does in terms of managing the sort of the fire on the savanna, which is very part of a natural system. So the first part is, you know, with coffee is, it's a bit of like I used to use the word princess. You know, it's like I don't know how to say. It's like a delicate plant. Okay, it's not a hardy. It's not like okra or something that, you know, it can just handle anything. Coffee is just so delicate. So it does not like fire. It does not like to freeze either. And so what we do in our coffee plantations is they're actually not big plantations, that we work with farmers. And the way we're planting coffee is very special because it's actually regenerative. And I think that is the word that really defines 99% of everything I do, is trying to be regenerative or transformative in something that is regenerative. And so we're working with smallholder farmers. Just picture this for a second. And it's a lot easier for Scottie to picture this than Madeline to picture this because she's been there. So you're on the mountain and you'll look to the left and you'll see a bunch of small bushes and you'll kind of not see any trees. And it looks kind of like a barren landscape with a bunch of little green dots. And those are really brand new coffee plants. And then as you pan over, you'll see another thing which looks like a forest. If you're not an ecologist like most of us, you'll look at it and be like, that's a forest. But when you look closer, you'll actually see that that forest has coffee plants in it. And that's a 5-year-old planting of coffee. And what's really exciting about that is it's a bit of a regenerative process. So it's regenerating the soil nutrients for long-term sustainable use of the land. So the fires, which are really used to get that boost in your maize production, when you're doing coffee, you're going year on year trying to keep that soil really rich, like forest soil, you know? So you can pick it up and it smells like, you know, it's humid and it smells good, and you don't want to eat it, but you know, you could almost eat it because it's so full of nutrients and stuff like that. So I think that that's very interesting. We're just entering the fire season now. We also do cashew and some other things that very much are part of this regenerative agricultural practices. And I saw just here, I mean, it was like heartbreaking to see some of these communities here who they themselves will start some fires in some small areas, but you know, the winds change. And this is what happens in California. You know, you get a hot day, you get you know, it's only said 40 degrees. You get like a 100-degree day and you get a powerful wind, and all of a sudden these guys who are just managing their small farm will see the fire take off and burn down their houses. I've seen it. I saw it, you know, a couple weeks ago, and then also burn down their tree crops. And that's really a sad thing, because, you know, you can have a tree for 10 years and then one day you get an out of control fire and you lose your cashew production, or on the mountain, your coffee production. And so, so we do some basic practices which are really exciting, like big fire breaks, you know, early burns, you know, and then we just teach this thing of like, you know, let's keep this alive and going for a long time. So that's the coffee regenerative story, which is my part. But I think Dominique's story is more interesting. It's more like National Geographic. I'm more like what comes on your dinner table. She's more like, you know, the cool stuff.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great segue, because Dominique can tell us about the one of the byproducts, or several of the byproducts of the coffee, which, by the way, you all sell internationally. And even though it's a for-profit business, it essentially all of the profit goes into one of the programs, one for plant conservation, one for a girls' education program, and one for animal conservation, which is a wonderful segue into you, Dominique. And, you know, what Madeline was saying, your research is based on the relationship between the humans and the animals. And I would love to know more about the research that you're doing and what you've been finding and how it's being applied in potentially in other places in the world.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. It's a great honor to be here talking to you and see your faces, Scottie and Madeline. And hi, Matt. we live in the same place, but at the moment we're in different places. Before I talk a little bit more about elephants and research, I just want to say something about a fire. As Matt said, it is quite normal for a savanna ecosystem to have fires, especially burning, especially in our country, because we have this kind of two big forest types or vegetation types that we call miombo and mopani. So in a miombo, fire is quite common. And actually we have some species that will only grow back, the seeds only start growing after fire. So not only just that, but also the fire, for example, of course, has to be controlled, and it's something we do in the park. And as much as we try to talk to our neighbors, our communities, they do try, but some fires just go over and, you know, it's not really controlled. But we do in the park some cold burning, which is a technique. And it helps a lot, not just because of reducing the dried biomass, that if it's still there and a fire starts, can just burn everything and, you know, even harm animals, but also because that cold burning then allows, after the rain, for new grass to come back and stronger. And that new grass comes exactly also by the time that new babies are being born. So it's really important, that dynamic of fire in an ecosystem such as ours and miombo or in a savanna. Well, so I'm not saying that fire is good all the time, but it's, at least in our ecosystem, is something needed and has to be controlled though, of course. But if we talk about slash and burn agriculture with fire, that's a ancient technique that the people would burn, to get rid of stuff instead of just making them to decompose, just to get rid of stuff so the nutrients also go back to the soil. So, but also needs to be controlled. And it's just like we're living in different times with so many things happening, especially climate change. Everything we burn something is more carbon dioxide going to the atmosphere, and there's the things that we need to consider. It's a shame that the fires, I think, are still going in the States, I guess, and it's a lot of biodiversity and wildlife are in risk, not just because of that, but many other our, let's say, actions. Going back to what I do, I am the manager of the Elephant Ecology Project in Gorongosa. And well, it all started with just a research question to know, in the history of Gorongosa, the wildlife was decimated after 16 years of war. And, we had, for example, 19% of our large mammals just vanished, destroyed, and elephants were one of them. So we had in our whole entire ecosystem we had 2,500 elephants reduced to less than 200. So as the restoration started of Gorongosa, as the restoration started and more security was given to these animals, more protection, and this habitat was kind of left protected and intact to come back. So our elephant population is one of the species that also coming back. And my question was exactly what's going to happen, because this ecosystem has been without elephants for certain time. So things change. For example, elephants in a place, they knock down trees, they make ways on this and that, they change the dynamic. That's why they are called the engineers of the ecosystem. But imagine a place without these elephants. What happens? The trees go back. I mean, a savanna or just a graminal or a floodplain becomes something else because there's no elephants to chop down the trees that would be trying to grow there. And the most important thing is not just how the ecosystem or Gorongosa ecosystem will react as these elephants are coming back, but things have changed. Now we have more people close to us than ever before. And those elephants were not there, and the people are there. Now the elephants are coming back, but elephants have long memory. They remember the places, the resources they need to get when they need to get. So what's going to happen? How is going to be this interaction between people and elephants in this human shared landscape? So all this takes us straight to the most famous thing that people talk or say when it's about human and elephants, which is conflict. It is happening, but we, especially in Gorongosa, we like to turn things in a more positive way, not saying that we're hiding or we don't accept. Of course, we see all the negative, but we want to bring a positive impact. So instead of just saying conflict, we say coexistence. What can we do so both people and wildlife are happy in this ecosystem? Because after all, we both share this ecosystem. And this is also something that I've been not just working, but helping, and also with help of many other departments, such as Matt's department and the conservation department, because we work with the colleagues, collaborators from our communities. And we haven't yet developed or invented any new thing. What we do is not trying to reinvent the wheel and this kind of human-elephant coexistence, but it's really learning from different people, different places that have been dealing with this for so long time and have more experience to how to do this. And this is one of our, one of the reasons why we are being successful with coexistence is because we just went away and we learned from the others and brought that to Gorongosa. And one of the things we do for that is, of course, the famous the Beehive Fences that we use, and many other things. But I'd say that this is what the people are more interested in. So
for the people who don't know what a beehive fence is, can you explain that to them? And also, as far as what you were saying about the elephants, I looked up some interesting facts about elephants, and like you were saying, they have the longest memory. do they remember the beehive fence now and not go back towards the community's crops? Like there's farmers there, and the elephants used to eat the potatoes and stuff like that. But now you have, well, if you explain the beehive fence, probably better than I can. But I wonder, do they remember it now and they're like, we're not going over there anymore?
That's, Madeline, that's such a great question, because it's actually one of my questions. I am currently a PhD student, and it's one of my questions because not just do they remember, but my question is, do they change their movement patterns or their corridors? Do they change the way they walk use a landscape because there's a mitigation in that place? Do they change their route because now they know that we can go that way because of a beehive or because of an improved silo? So that's the question I still need to know. I still need to know the answer to tell you, but I promise I'll let you know as soon as I know. I just started to do some analysis, and just based on my daily monitoring, because we have the systems that we can see is at least the elephants that we have GPS collars on, and I can see, and also based on some reports from our community collaborators, that some elephants already, avoiding certain spots that used to be a highway of elephants, and they start to avoid because there is a fence over there, a beehive fence, or there is something else. So, but it's not enough, and a scientific way to say that that's it. They do remember and they avoid it. So we need to do more kind of studies and more data collection and more complicated analysis to be able to say that they are avoiding this because of mitigation. And this, brings many other questions. If they're avoiding this area because of mitigations, would they go to a different place and then have conflict in a different place? It's a very important question too. And this is the only way for us to know, is to keep monitoring along the time and trying to do some models to really predict what they're going to do based on their movements or based on their experience right now. Going back to how beehive fences work, I had so much fun explaining this in one of my talks because everyone was laughing, and I didn't, I didn't expect that. But then I realized it's pretty funny because Dr. Lucy King, she was the one who kind of proved scientifically by her research that elephants are afraid of bees. So what she basically did was, looking at families, elephants groups in the wild environment, and first she observed a few reactions of their behavior near beehives, and then she went there with a buzz or something, and she just make that sound of bees, and the elephants will freak out. So this is how it all started, and she started to pilot using beehives to stop elephants entering into farms, or mashambas as we call. So this is exactly what we do. So we have a beehive fence is a bunch of beehives linked by a rope, closing either an entrance or an entire area, surrounding it. But the main purpose is that elephants don't pass through or don't enter into something. So when the elephants are trying to get there, and because they're just trying to pass, if they shake a rope, because all the bees are suspended, so if they shake the rope, it all goes, starts that movement and shakes all the bees that are linked. Might be at night, but if you shake a bunch of African honeybees, they're gonna get upset. And when they get out, it's like they sting the elephants. You say, well, but elephants have very thick skin, yes, but they also have very sensitive parts. For example, the tip of the trunks, behind the ears, the belly, the lips. So they just freak out, and it's painful. It's very painful, and they just avoid it. They run away. And we at the moment have a few cameras and there's beehive fences, and it's amazing the things that I can see sometimes. It's like in the videos or pictures of the elephants coming and touching from far away, and being very careful, and they realize it's a beehive and they just go away, or they just walk through the beehive without touching it, just waiting for the beehive to end so they can maybe try to get in. So it has been, it has been successful not only for us in Gorongosa, but in Kenya, in Asia, in many other places. So it's just, learning from others and bringing that to our place. Yeah.
I can vouch for the fact that African honeybees, when they sting you, it hurts. I have firsthand anecdotal evidence that that's true, and it's not a good feeling. It's not a pleasant feeling.
It's just so funny to think of something like the largest mammal in the world being afraid of one of the smallest creatures in the world, but just goes to show how powerful bees are, and they're an indicator animal, basically, right? Just like I saw on the website, bats as well are an indicator animal. I also wanted to, I know it's hard because there's so much ground to cover because you guys do so many amazing things with the park as its focal point to bring money in and sustainability and regenerative practices, which no one talks about as much. It's one thing to sustain. It's another thing to rebuild and regenerate the soil. That's amazing. So if that's a segue to kind of jump into more of what you guys do with that as well. I don't know. I'm just here, like in awe of you guys and what you're doing. I'm so jazzed.
Thanks, man. And I can add to Dominique. I can just add to what she's saying. First of all, I mean, I've heard Dominique talk a couple different times, and we talk, we talk, we're colleagues.
We talk.
I learn things from her, I find, just like this is such an amazing format, this thing, because I'm literally learning as we're going. So when the one exciting part and why Beehive Fences are part of this very holistic approach is because they actually produce honey, and honey has a real economic value, especially for subsistence farmers. It brings in what we refer to as household income for people. So if you're running, we did some math, and there's some number where around 10 to 15 hives is almost like a minimum wage job. So that's a very interesting and exciting thing to think about. Well, if you have 1,000 hives, that could be 100. That's like creating 100 jobs, and that's something where when we talk about a minimum wage job where you have to work, 5 days a week, 40 hours a day or whatever, 40 hours a week, with beehives, you really only work a couple times a year. You kind of take care of them and do some things like that. So there's this holistic community approach where you're a family who at one time your crops were really there was a negative impact from elephants coming in, and now you're not only not getting elephants coming in, but you're actually getting your household income boosted from honey. And the exciting part, and where I would love to go to, where we're going to go to, I'm going to say that, is we're going to have the first ever exported Mozambican honey ever. It's a bit challenging to export honey, but we're going to have we have the first ever exported specialty coffee from Mozambique. We're going to have the first ever exported honey from Mozambique. It's going to be the most delicious honey you've ever had in your whole life. And I think that that's the real strength of this brand we've created, Our Gorongosa, is that we can take the tangible product that is helping people's lives and helping coexistence, and then the whole world can be part of this community, in a way that's restorative to our own self. People say honey is like medicinal. People rub it; they rub it on wounds. I'm not recommending that. I've never done that, but you do that.
Antibacterial properties. I mean, they've been using it.
That's right.
The Egyptian days. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. Even the nowadays, I see people rubbing it on their, and one small thing, just to say that I just 2 days ago, I was at a farm. So we want to do organic production of cashew. And
yes,
one of the
I saw
really
that post. It was exciting. I was going to ask you about that. So yes.
Oh, ask me the question, because
No, keep going. But I was excited because I know that organic, some people are really responsive to that or not. And I think things are probably generally more organic there than in a lot of other places in the world. But I'm curious to know about how you're, certifying it and what that process is.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting time where the world is really responding to organic certification and just more, again, regenerative practices in terms of agriculture. And two parts is, one, we're going organic with a lot of our, with honey. Honey is very easy. We have some of the purest honey in the whole world because there's just no pesticides anywhere, in a lot of different places. But in some places here there are. And what I discovered just 2 days ago on this farm, I went out there, and there's these guys, and they're so funny, and they're spraying. And what they were spraying was what they called biospray. And it was an effective microbial spray that's created from honey as a stock, as like a catalyst. So they'll use honey, they'll kind of ferment it, then they'll have some mushrooms, and they'll get some like activated fungus molecules, fungus things, and they'll put it in there. This is like not how you actually want to learn things. This is having Matt explain it to you. But you put the other thing in there, you mix it all up, and then that whole thing becomes basically an organic fungicide. And and with coffee and cashew, that is the way we will engage it. And the exciting thing is we can potentially industrialize that process, meaning we can make it in mass scale, and we can make that available to all the farmers we work with. We work with 10,000 farmers, and it's just like I couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited about this thing, and I was texting everyone. I was like, we gotta do this, and they were just like, it's 1 a.m. Just stop texting.
Wow. It's just so incredible, the whole picture and the way, like you say, the holistic approach and how everything is, I can't think of the word, coexisting, but the give and take and the reciprocity and, the whole park, the story itself is just a rebirth and the way that you're moving with the times too. And I have a question I've been wanting to ask you, Dominique, since I saw a post about it recently, and I might be wrong. So, but I think I remember seeing something about how you've discovered some of the elephants are growing no tusks now. Is this true? Because obviously poaching is a real problem, and I know that the park does some amazing work with, you guys have an incredible team of why can't I think of the word, rangers, and you also have some female rangers, which I think is really cool. And we'll get to the women and girls programs after this, but I just am so curious and dying to know if this tusk thing is what you've discovered with that.
It is true, and unfortunately, Gorongosa is one of these populations that suffered for so much because of poaching or over harvesting of ivory, for example, especially during not just the colonial times or the war times, but even after the war. The national parks, especially in Mozambique, was not really a priority. And Gorongosa in that case was, as I said, the elephant population was just, reduced from 2,500 to less than 200. And that is what poaching, not just poaching, over harvesting does, and especially ivory harvesting, because these things focus on long tasks, right? What they want from the ivory is beautiful long ivory, heavy and dense and all these things. So imagine in a population that we have, I'm going to give an example using tall, short people, because I'm short, don't worry. So for example, let's say in our group we have 10, very tall people, and then we have 5 short people. And someone comes and say, I want 8 of the 10 tall people out of the room and never come back. And we stay there, the short people, and only a few tall people. And we have to make our population grow. So if we reproduce because of our genes, what's going to happen is most of the reproduction product or the other people who's going to be short, mostly, not really tall, just because it's the tall gene or the tall people is being taken out of the population or the group. So that's exactly what's happening in Gorongosa. And we have examples of other places. For example, Ado Elephant Park also was the same. After a long period of over-harvesting of ivory and poaching, I'm saying over-harvesting, but that was mostly illegal poaching. They had a high percentage of tuskless elephants. In Gorongosa is the same, but we noticed that I never saw a male without a tusk, but we'll see, I think in our population, about 60% or something is tuskless. I hope I'm not wrong, otherwise Joyce would be very upset. So they're tuskless, which means that they don't have tusks. And if you look, our elephants don't have really long tusks anymore. We really have a population with short, medium tusks, but most of our females were tuskless. And we noticed that even the offspring of these females would be, if female could be tuskless or with tusks or one tusk, but never a male without a tusk. So that was what's happening. And I'm so glad to say that some collaborators, Dr. Rob included, and Shane Campbell-Staton, and Brian, and I and Joyce, we just submitted a few days ago the paper with some of those results. And well, I can't say a lot. I'll just say wait for the paper. If it gets accepted and published, then we can say way more things about it. But yeah, it is something that we've been observing in Gorongosa, and there's been so many questions, and also a lot of light to what human actions can really do to wildlife. I mean, if we're really getting a population of tuskless elephants, then just because of people harvesting them, that's really, strong in our actions. And what we want, I mean, do we see our elephants without tusks? What did that, make of them? Because tusks are an important feature of an elephant. It's not just ornamental. They use the tusks for many things, dig holes, to bark trees. Male elephants fight over females, and the tusks is what they use. And it's a lot. You could see anywhere videos of female elephants carrying and taking care of babies and many things using their tusks. So it's not just ornamental. So elephants are the only ones who should wear that ivory, because they're the ones who really need. So it's quite sad to see a population with so many tuskless females, but apparently it's what we see. But I'm very optimistic, because I've seen even in Ado Elephant Park that that ratio has been turning slowly. So maybe with time things come back. We don't really know, we're not sure, but at the moment this is what we have. Because of harvesting of tusks and ivory, we have a few populations of elephants without tusks at all.
Because elephants are the only, elephants being the largest mammal, have no predators except for us. We're the only ones threatening them. We should stop.
Yeah,
definitely.
Will you tell us as well about your work with the Girls Club, and how? And also, I want to, after this as well, I want to hear your guys' favorite stories, because I'm sure this work has changed your life, has enhanced it, has been just inspiring. Like you were saying last night, Matt, that you were just hearing about this new thing made you want to stay up all night because it's so exciting. And during this time with the fires and everything is, I mean, the sky is literally smoky and scary here. It really is pretty scary out there right now. So to hear about these hopeful, incredible programs that you guys have, it's just, I think everybody over here really needs that too. There's still people doing good work out there, guys. It's not all doom and gloom.
yeah. And just to tag on to that too, the Madeline and I were talking about earlier on the site that it says that on the Gorongosa site, so the face of poverty is a woman, and curious what where that comes from and how you all are working, how's that impacted the girls program. And I remember when I was there, I encountered a busload of girls when I was driving through the park, and it was so amazing. They were there and able to see the animals, and I also think part of the program, and you can tell more, but I thought what impressed me so much about it, I found so inspiring, was that part of the program is to bring the girls and the local community too into the park and experience all of the wildlife there that I think is not typical of, you know, your typical safari place. And I think that to me seemed like such a special thing about Gorongosa is the, you know, because it is a coexistence with the animals and the community, that people can come in who wouldn't, you know, in other places in Africa where foreigners come in and experience these things, you know, and the locals don't get to. I think it's so amazing, all of the steps that, you know, Gorongosa has taken to empower the community. And yeah, I'm just so curious to hear more about all of that. So
Matt, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll save the best for last. So one exciting thing from the work that we're doing is a few weeks ago, we had a group of about 9 young girls from the community around the park who came to our coffee factory. And what I was very excited about is we not only do the programmatic things, but as an institution, you know, we hire women for positions of, you know, key management positions, you know, roles of, you know, authority and decision making, and they're involved in the decision making process. And I think that that's a fundamental, you know, pillar of what we're doing, and it makes a difference to have, you know, a mixed gender group of decision makers. It just fundamentally you start to conceptualize what's possible in a very different way. And I've noticed that myself. And in my department, we've brought on 2, you know, in the last, you know, I've only been there for a bit working at this role, but we brought on one woman, Maria Cabral, who's the head of the quality control and quality processing, a very pragmatic and technical person. And we brought on another woman, Natl Manjati, who's a very, you know, a very social, but also, you know, a statistician in her past life. So, but she's also a singer and a performer, and they bring qualities, characteristics, opinions, viewpoints that are incredibly unique and valuable. And when these 9 girls were there with me, well, not with me, but when they were visiting, Maria was leading them and showing them her work, which is technical and it's complex, and she's a boss, you know, she's like the boss of a big team. And so I know that means something. I heard recently a talk from a female astronaut. I can't remember her name, I have names, but she was saying that when she was young, she didn't ever think of being an astronaut because people didn't ask girls that question. You know, they didn't say, hey, do you want to be an astronaut when you grow up? They just never asked girls that question, you know? And I think it's exciting to think that these girls right now have been asked that question. Like, do you want to do this side of thing? Do you want to be a leader here? Do you want to be, you know, an engineer? Do you want to do these things? And I think, you know, I mean, yeah, just me personally, I've benefited greatly, you know, in having this mixed gender type of approach. I think it's been exciting. And so that's just been how I've seen it at an institutional level. And then, you know, from the 10,000 farmers, we really are strategic there. And we use some behavioral economic approaches. We use some, you know, very, you know, kind of next generation thinking about how to engage people in a way that doesn't disrupt the culture, or does disrupt the culture in ways that it ought to be disrupted. Like, guess what? 13-year-old girls should never be married, you know, to 50-year-old men. It's just like there should be fundamentals that you know we don't promote, and those are things that we're using the tools at our stage, which are, you know, we can improve household economics. And guess what? When your household economics go up, when you make money and you're not cash strapped, you make very different decisions about how to do things with your family. It turns out that if you've got money, in your household, the probability that your girls will go to school is significantly higher. You know, it's just a fact. It's a statistical fact. So the more household incomes we can promote, you know, the more, you know, people are going from $2 a day to $10 a day, then yeah, I think the higher probability that, you know, more girls will be in school and a few things like that. So yeah, so that's just something that I think is quite exciting. I think Dominique's work is much. I get to learn a lot from that as well. So.
Yeah, just to add, you know, well, this is a topic that's very dear to my heart, although it's not my main focus. And when I started to help, because it's not like really my work, but when I got the interest on, you know, girls' education and girls' club, was really just out of my heart, because, you know, it was something that I wanted to know more. And I don't really know how to explain why, but, you know, and I went for there with Larissa, our great colleague, and, you know, I had one of the most beautiful experiences in my life with girls from the girls' club. Actually, I was the one using that expression in one of my first ever big talks, when I said, in my country, poverty has the face of a woman. And that is because we see that women don't get education, and then it's very common to see a woman with a baby and on her arms and another one on the back, and she's pregnant and she's carrying many things and she's walking, no shoes, no something. And that's the poverty kind of face that it especially has been showing a lot outside my country. So, and also even in the country, you'll see the women with a very old capulana, which is our traditional fabric, and you're like, poor, it's poverty. So, and that was also an expression I learned from one of our former colleagues. And in that time, he was the head of the Human Development Department, and he explained to me why. But then, if you understand, is what Matt said, in rural places in Mozambique, and not only Mozambique, but I'm going to talk about my country and especially the area where we work on. You know, girls drop school and get married by the age of 13, 14. When she's 15, she might have already 2 kids or a miscarriage or something like that. And not saying that they're getting married out of love, you know, no, they're getting married because the family needs not just the support from the lobolo, which is the traditional respect that, you know, the male family pay for the family of the girl. But not only that, I have seen, it's so easy to say the traditional is wrong and this and that. And, you know, the parents shouldn't just let the girls get married. But based on my experiences, I've also seen that it's because the parents, this girl is growing, she has a first menstruation, and she's still in school, and the parents can't provide for basic things such as hygiene stuff that the girl may need. And they're also afraid that the girl gonna be, you know, playing and maybe get pregnant or something. So instead of getting that shame and the girl not being able to go to school because of her menstruation or something else, it's maybe easier to just marry her off and even get that gift, that bride, that money or whatever, or help in the land, and you solve a problem, you know. So that's the thing that happened. But not saying that that's an excuse. It's not. I mean, there's many other parents that don't do that. But my point here is because many of us talk about this traditional culture, this thing of paying for the bride as wrong and wrong. No, it depends on how it is made. For example, one day I would, you know, it's out of respect for me and my family when the guy does that. But my other point is when a girl gets no education, she's a prisoner, right? She can make choices. She can decide. She can say, no, I don't want to get pregnant now. She can say, well, I want to do family planning. She can't really make smart choices or anything. And she'll be the one carrying those children and, you know, using resources from the environment to feed them every day. to give them food, warm food, medicine, whatever she has to do, she will be doing. And let's think about that. All of us learn something from a woman, either our mothers or something else. And all the knowledge she has, she's going to be passing through her family, her kids, and her generation. And, you know, these are the future. So imagine a woman imagine if she is educated. She can make smart choices. As Matt says, she has money. She doesn't, you know, she plans for better things. She plans better. Her children are healthier, you know, more nutrition and everything. People are happier and the environment is also happier. So when a woman is empowered with education, with a job, with money, with her own choices, it's just better for everyone else, not just for the society, but also for the environment. And with that, we end this cycle of poverty and, you know, poverty and destruction of the environment and many things. So that's why it's so important for girls to get educated in our communities. And that's why the Girls Club program is so important to also, because what we do is that we keep girls in school, basically. A Girls Club program is an after-school program. So the girls that go to school in the morning, they go to the club in the afternoon, where they learn many things, not just they improve their literacy, numeracy, but they also learn skills for life. You know, small entrepreneurship. They learn, you know, even women rights, and we talk about different things in a society. Sometimes taboo, you know, instead of going to just a friend and maybe get a bad advice, it's an open, safe space that everyone can talk and share their things. And the most important thing about that is not just the auto-esteem, and because knowledge is power, especially in rural poor communities. And not just knowing what you can do or not, but it's just kind of support system you have, because everyone goes through so much in every day in their houses that you coming with your story, it might be just another thing, you know, who's going to support you. But the Girls Club program also have what we call the madrinhas, which are godmothers. And they are actually women from the community that decided that they wanted to help because they wish they also had that kind of opportunity when they were young. So even if your parents they're not letting you go to the club, not just for fun, also in the club they play, to be honest. It's also time for playing, because girls in our communities, they would be, you know, go back from school, you have to take care of your siblings, so you have to work in the farm, you have to clean the house, you have to do this, you don't play. So, you know, they also play. So if something is going wrong in the house and in communities, those madrinhas, they live in the communities, godmothers will be caring, will be looking out for you. So it's kind of an entire system of support. So when I visit the Girls Club my first time, out of curiosity, just because I want to see what's happening, I just wanted to meet these girls. And Larissa, she set me up. She was like, you're going to talk to the girls then. I was like, but what am I going to talk? She was like, talk whatever, you know, share something. They'll love to see a different person to talk to them, not just the promoters, because they have promoters, right? Kind of teachers. So I sat with them and I started talking and I started sharing my own history and the things I've been through too. And I realized that was the first time ever I opened my heart and shared a few things I've been through with my family in life. Not even with my sisters before. And I did cry, and they could see that. But, you know, when I switch and start to talk about my work, what I do, that I work with elephants and this and that, and show them a few pictures, even pictures of my graduation from undergrad, you can just see the light in their eyes, because it's so important that they can see that these girls see a model, a role model, or someone, I would say, that looks like them, that have been through similar stuff, but we're able to break these barriers and be doing something different now. You know, it's important that they see that there's a different choices, different windows, that is possible. It's not going to be easy, many other things, but, you know, there's a way to do it. And also, of course, any other thing. I've been then visiting the girls' clubs, different ones, many times, and I've also hosted some of them, you know, in the park, in a big car with them. It's so much fun, but, you know, it's for them, it's an amazing thing. And and I enjoyed a lot, because I also remember all, you know, when I was in that kind of age, and all my worries, all my, you know, especially if you have difficult things at home, and what's going to be tomorrow, and school, will I be able to go to school, this and that. So those girls carry heavier things than that. So it's important that they show, you know, they see some more support, and they see that there's different ways, different doors, and there's a future. And of course we try, and we do teach a little bit about conservation and, you know, sustainable use of resources, because that's the future, for example, of our park, of Gorongosa National Park, and many other places in this planet, depends on those communities that live next door to them, depends on this next generation, these young girls and boys, but especially girls, because otherwise things might be very, very difficult in future for us. So that's one of the things of the Girls Club. And well, I could be saying many, many things here. I have many memories, but you know, that's kind of the essence of Girls Club. And right now, I think we have about 2,000 girls in 50 different schools. And, you know, it's amazing. And some people say, what about the boys? We know that. We also worry and take care of boys, because what would be a society with girls are all up and then boys are not ready or prepared for that kind of change? So we also look for both, and we have kind of youth clubs and other kind of clubs. But the girls program, the Girls Club, is focused on vulnerable girls in our communities.
Wow. Yeah. All of this is just, I don't know, my heart is burst open just hearing you skim the surface of your experience. And I hope someday to talk to you more about and hear about your personal story more, Dominique. But what a wonderful note to end all of this on, and paint the picture of the importance of education and balance, and all of everything about the story of Gorongosa. To me is just, if we could all live in the holistic, balanced bubble that the foundation has very consciously cultivated over the years. And I just am so excited that you guys are continuing to do incredible work in so many areas. And, you know, for those of you who've tuned in and listened to this, you can find a lot out about the park on the website, which I'm sure we'll be including on our site when we post these videos. And you can support the park through buying the delicious, amazing coffee. And you can either choose the Girls Around the World, Speak for the Trees, or Elephants Never Forget, which I love all of those names. And each of them obviously supports different aspects of the park. And you can follow the work of Dominique on the site. And I'm sure Matt his story's all involved in the whole site itself, but the park itself is just such a special place that, you know, when the world opens up again, people can go and visit, because there are places to stay. And I think there's a new area being developed too for tourism. So Madeline, hopefully you and I can take a little trip there again sometime.
I've always wanted to go to Africa. It's the heart of the world. It's shaped like a heart for a reason. And I'm sad that I haven't gone yet. So
you have an open invitation. We will, Dominique and I will personally drive you around.
I learned about elephants. That's how you can tell the difference between an Asian elephant and an African elephant, is that their ears are shaped like Africa. So, yeah.
Right.
Thank you guys so much. I hope people go on your website and look everything up, because last night, just watching all the videos, I was so inspired. And yeah, hopefully I get to come visit you guys. Thanks, Scottie.
Thank you
all.
Thanks,
Scottie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madeline. Pleasure to meet you.
And the Environmental Media Association for inspiring these stories to get out there. So super grateful to all of you for your time, and we'll see you sometime out there. Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.